Hello and welcome to Into Your Life podcast. I'm Lenka and I'm joined here by my wonderful co-host Natalie.
Hi, we invite you to join our weekly conversations about finding more life in one's life.
Well, what does it actually mean?
We have discussions with guests about ways to live happier, healthier, and more fulfilling lives, both personally and professionally.
That sounds great. Let's go.
Welcome to another exciting episode of this podcast. Today we have a very special guest for you. She's calling in all the way across the pond. It's Permelia Parham, who is the founder and principal at the Healing Institute, a place for international wellness community. And I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. It will be all around wellness, all around healing. We'll go into all sorts of modalities and how we can heal ourselves, how we can help healing others, and how we can heal the world. So this will be very healing conversation, I hope. So hi Permelia, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Linka. It's lovely to be here with you and Natalie today. So yes, all the way from Canada, the west coast of Canada even. So it's a few miles away from each other, but it works now with the way the global world works. Is perfect, actually.
That's what we love. We can talk with people, who are like-minded and who have something wonderful to share and who have the world health in mind, no matter where they're based. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and about the institute that you founded and that you're leading. What is the mission over there?
Well, thank you for that. Yes, so I am a healer in that the modality that I work with is called the body code and the emotion code. It was created by a doctor in the United States, Dr. Bradley Nelson, and it's looking at the emotions that we could have trapped in our subconscious. And when we get these emotions trapped in our subconscious, they're also trapped in our body. So they're like balls of negative energy, which we definitely don't want to have because it leads to dis-ease. So I've been studying and using holistic health myself for over 20 years, and I just love the way it works for all of us. Really, we're getting to the root cause of what's going on, not just looking at symptoms. And so 2 years ago, when we were all locked down and I wasn't seeing my clients in person, I had to learn Zoom, just like everybody else did. And I started to meet people like yourself, like both of you ladies. I was on networking platforms all over the world, and I started to meet these amazing holistic practitioners. And so I thought, well, let's create something where we can really have an impact, that we can do it virtually, we can do it globally. So that's how the Healing Institute came about. And I'm calling it Institute because I'm really passionate about educating people about how to be well and how to stay well. I mean, we're all on a health journey, let's face it. And so we want it to be as most positive as we possibly can get. And there is sort of this misnomer, I believe, that as we age, we need to be sick, we need to have injuries, or we need to have aches and pains. We need to take medication because of these aches and pains or whatever. And I just don't believe that's true. I really believe our bodies are amazing. And that's why with the Institute, we're going to have a whole education leg. It's not there yet. That's part of what I'm developing. Right now, we have what I'm calling the practitioner leg. So we have presently 10 practitioners representing 6 countries. And my vision is to grow it to 12 plus countries, 200 plus practitioners. And so we really want to get to the root cause of what's going on. So when somebody comes to the Healing Institute, all our practitioners, we're a community of practitioners. So we would get together and help this one client, or the client is certainly able to connect with each practitioner individually. But if a client came to me for body code work, for example, but I knew for sure that they would really benefit from talking to our registered clinical counselor that's on the site, or we have an amazing conscious breathing facilitator, somebody who does Reiki all the way from South Africa. So we're a community of practitioners to be there for the clients. So it's one-stop shopping for the clients. And we just want to look at them as a whole person and help them and assist them on their health journey so that they, when you have your health, it's your wealth, really. And when you have your health, you do other things in life. It's not just worrying about that ache or that pain, or not having the ache or the pain. You actually are into service, and we definitely need to have more and more people feeling well and healthy, so that they can do what they're meant to do, what they showed up on this continent at this point in time, or in the world. I shouldn't say just this continent, but in this world, to do what they were meant to do. And that is to serve and to let's make this world a better place. So we have a little bit of work, but it's certainly worth it. Yes, thank you.
You are my kind of a person, to just say to be well and stay well, just approaching health and well-being, the wellness from this perspective, and really looking at this longevity, this not only living as long as possible, but really living as healthily, as strongly, as capable, and having wonderful lives without pain or unnecessary pain. Obviously, pain is an essential part of life. Pain is essential part of our system that gives us these clues with pain that something's off. I don't want to completely disregard pain, but also there's definitely way too much of just looking at the symptoms, putting a pill here, putting a quick fix here, and the beliefs. I think the magic in what you do and the mindset that you're really bringing into the world, it's the beliefs that we have around we can heal ourselves, our bodies, potentially with some guidance of other people. And yes, I'm not against medications, I'm not against things like that, but we have incredible abilities and capacities to be well and to heal ourselves and to really live this strong and happy and healthy and fulfilling lives. But it does come a lot to the mindset and to the belief and to the medical system and to the information. So thank you so much for all the work that you've started and that you're doing and that you're going to do. And let's talk a bit more about this belief that we, unfortunately, majority of people in this world do have, that we are dependent on doctors, we're dependent on other people, we're dependent on medication, we're dependent on pain to just struggle through life. So how can we start shifting our mindset and beliefs to really open ourselves to this new world that you're not only imagining, but actively building?
Well, I just love that you talked about beliefs because one of the modalities that I have is actually helping people realign their belief systems. So we have these belief systems because our families believed a certain thing, or our society as we were growing up believed a certain thing. And so and we've been in I would say a couple of generations or more of believing that when we got ill, we would go to the doctor would fix us. Well, now we know more and more, and I love the science that's out there. So I'm a real science guru. If there's any science behind, there's science behind everything, but when I find the science, then I'm all over that. And the people that I listen to, like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and Lynn McTaggart, who's an amazing journalist and lives in the UK now in London. And she interviews these people all the time. And I was very fortunate to actually meet them in person at a conference that was here on Vancouver Island, where I lived, back in 2018. And so these are the people that are on my bookshelf, most of those books, and I actually got to meet them in person. But they're talking about beliefs. And of course, Dr. Bruce Lipton has his book, The Biology of Belief. And I was just listening to him the other day. Actually, Lynn McTaggart was interviewing him and Greg Braden. And Bruce Lipton's in his 70s. And so he was saying, the way science is coming along to support us being healthy now, this is only mid-age. We can actually live to be 150. So 70 is only, we're only at midlife. We have a lot more years ahead of us. And I was like, oh, I like that idea, because I have kind of jokingly been saying, I'm going to live to 125, and everybody kind of rolls their eyes at me. And I'm like, and I'm going to be healthy. Like, I'm not going to be disabled or crippled or, in some institution someplace, and I don't know what's going on. So I was really, really excited for him to say that. And it's so true about what we believe. And if you can switch that. So if you were raised to believe things more in a negative context, well, you can change that over to being in a positive context. So yeah, very, very important. Mindset, belief systems, and just reading. That's why I called the Healing Institute an institute, because I really want to have all of those YouTube videos and podcasts and information. Like your podcast is, I've been listening to it as I was out doing my walking, and like some of the topics that I just love that what you have on your podcast, and people then get energized and excited about knowing that there are things that can enhance their life. And I like to say that we at the Healing Institute want to give people hope. We hear a lot about people being distressed and anxious and having, really feeling down and feeling very negative about their life, or that, they can't change their life. And that's what we really want to give people, hope that there is a way that you can change. You can change how you have to do the work. Unfortunately, it's not a quick fix and it's not a pill, but you can adjust your outlook on life, most definitely. Yes. So thanks. I love that you brought that up about belief systems. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because these authors that you mentioned, they are my way of getting into the health and well-being and really working on, my mindset and my beliefs. And I totally agree that, what you do, the fact that you are bringing hope and shining light at, the possibilities out there, and really working with the beliefs and mindset. Because I always say that all the knowledge is out there. There is so much wisdom and knowledge out there already, but we don't always know where to look. We don't always know where to start. We don't always are really open to certain things, and there certain messages will still be a bit more mainstream and will get more, power. And there are these, bubbles, and there are these algorithms, and there are these political parties, and there are these cultures and all sorts of things that play a role into what we are exposed to and what we kind of see as possibilities. And that's where our podcast, for me, is so meaningful, that we are for ourselves able to meet wonderful people and open our horizons, and do the same for our listeners, and then point them into directions of, go ahead and check out the resources at the Healing Institute and explore there and learn more about whatever modalities are out there, whatever challenges you might be coming. Because I think what you do, it's a very sweet spot of, you can search for symptoms, you can search for what's the pain or ache or problem that you currently have, or you can look for a specific service if you have in mind that, maybe this is the modality, this is the service, this is the solution you would like to explore. Then you can do both of that in, on your website and with the vision that you have for the Healing Institute.
Yes, I tried to make the website as easy as possible for clients and people coming to the website. So there's a search bar that you can put in whatever is bothering you, whether you're having a sleep issue or it's stress or anxiety, or you just write, put that whatever that is in the search bar, and then the practitioners that can help with that you'll get a list of their profiles, and then you can easily look at their profile in more depth, and also book a complimentary consultation with them. So all of the practitioners have a complimentary consultation because I didn't want clients coming to the website and having to make a financial decision right away. And so that book button takes you to their calendar. You can book a time that works for you, it's open on their calendar. And then if you decide as a client, if you decide that you would like to work with that practitioner, then the book button, then after you book your time, will take you to the payment page. So there is that very easy search bar as you scroll down a little bit on the website, you'll come to categories. So there's 5 different categories, and then within each of the categories are the modalities, and the modalities are a link. So when you click on that modality, it'll take you to the practitioner that works with that modality. So yeah, we tried to make it as easy for people as possible to find what they're looking for. And I love the fact that you talked about that you mentioned about what we're offering, because we really want to, mainstream society, in my mind, doesn't always know. And I've always been curious. I've always asked questions, to the detriment sometimes of my poor parents who didn't quite know how to answer. But I was always curious. I've always been asking questions. So if I don't know something, I want to find out about it. And so, but not everybody has the time to do that, or they're not have the inclination to do that. And so that's what we want in the education component of the Healing Institute. So all of the YouTube videos that I'm sure you ladies and I watch around healing and health, those are things that would just pop up into either our feed because we're interested in that, or we go searching for it because we're interested in it. But if you haven't been doing that, then you might not know about it. And so we want people to know the stories of that we've discovered over the years. We want people to know about the Joe Dispenza story, for example. So for anybody who doesn't know, Dr. Joe Dispenza was in a triathlon. He was on his bike. He got hit by a truck. He was in the hospital. They said he'd never walk again. And no, I always say this is the short version. He literally decided he was going to walk again. He was a chiropractor. So he decided, yeah, he was, and he went, he meditated and actually healed himself. And so we do know then that our bodies are very resilient. So if he can do it, anybody can do it. But if you don't know that story, I mean, I was amazed when I first heard that had happened, and that he actually did heal his broken bones by meditating. I was just, not that I didn't believe it, I did, because I do believe in the power of meditation. But we need to get that information out to people so that they can understand it as well. Because our bodies are pretty amazing. We give them the right tools. We give our bodies the right tools. Our bodies will actually heal what needs to be healed, and keep us healthy. Yeah.
I love how you giving people the control again, because I think that's something that we've lost, is that the realization or the knowledge that actually we are in control of our bodies. We are in control of the choices that we make in our bodies or with our bodies, and it's giving us that power back. And a lot of these healing skills we've lost. I mean, the ancient Egyptians could do brain surgery, and they removed gallbladders and everything else. And then we went all those years with the story of, well, it was just leeches and the doctors didn't have a clue until I think it was the 50s or 40s, then Big Pharma came and, oh my God, we all of a sudden know what to do. Here's a pill, swallow it and you'll be better. And we've lost those abilities of herbal medicines, of going into nature, I'm from South Africa, so the witch doctors knew more about medical medicine than actual doctors did. But I mean, they witch doctors. What do they know? They throw bones. You don't go to them because it's all like, oh my God, it's alternative. And over the last few years, I think people are waking up to, hang on a minute. Is the doctor in the white coat absolutely right? But my body's telling me something. Can I find out in a different way? I grew up with the knowledge that I could go anywhere and I had to find, well, I say but my mother used to have to find the different doctors. You would go to different doctors, homeopaths, naturopaths, Buddhists, acupuncturists. Reiki wasn't so big then, but you went where you felt you needed to go, and you didn't go to the GP unless you had a broken leg and you needed them to put it back together again. But when I came to the UK, that's very different. Everything is done via the GP, and going to the alternative was like, oh my God, don't do that, because A, you have to pay, and B, that's just woo-woo. What do they know? That's just herbs. Herbs aren't good for you. And that was the whole attitude. And almost the whole society lost the ability to say, hang on a minute. If I've got a sore back, do I need a chiropractor? Let me go find my own chiropractor. Let me see, do I need acupuncture? Do I need to do a yoga stretch? I mean, it doesn't need to be anything drastic. But what can I do to help myself to heal? And your institute sounds very similar to, I don't know if you've heard of the World Council for Health.
Yes.
And they've come together to, started by a South African, I just want to, say that. And they've come together over the last couple of years with the basic science, with how we can fix ourselves or help ourselves without necessarily relying on medication. And I'm not saying that all medication is wrong. I'm not saying don't have the pills if you need it, but it's not your first stop. It might not be the right thing. And how many times do we hear, yeah, but take this pill for this, but I take this pill for the side effects from that pill, but I have the side effects from that pill, so I need this pill. And you end up with a handful of tablets that are just can cause more harm than good. And I think this is what we need to come away from is, what can I do? How can I help my body to fix itself? Because as you've mentioned, we have the power. Our bodies are powerful. And you've mentioned some of my favorites, Greg Braden. I love Greg Braden. I think I've read all his books. I've got them on my bookshelf over there.
They're on my bookcase.
Bruce Lipton, I know he's a big one with Lenka. You've mentioned these authors that we've talked about on our podcast, and who also are helping us to take back control. It's actually your body, your mind, your space, your choices. How can we be in control? And I just wanted to share that with you, because what you're doing is, I think, so important moving forward. And why can't we live to 125 or 150 healthily? There's been records of a Chinese man living to 250 with all his great grandkids around him, and he was healthy. It wasn't like he was doddering, sitting in a corner drooling. He was fairly healthy up until, I think, about 245 or something. But the thing is, it is possible. Why do we believe at 80 that's it, life's done, you die? Where does that belief come from? And that just goes back to the belief in our brains are powerful, our bodies are powerful. And I just wanted to say thank you that you are bringing another way that we as humans can take back control and be responsible for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we are responsible for ourselves.
Well, and at the end of the day, we really know ourselves the best, right? Because we're in this body. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Natalie, because I really feel that, obviously, I feel the pandemic came along for a reason. Philosophically, I believe we were just going way too fast. So something had to happen. But I also believe that we had a huge paradigm shift as people, in that we finally realized that we could be responsible for ourselves. I mean, in Canada, we were masked up for many months. Even, I'll still wear a mask on the airplane because I don't want all that recycled air. And we did take control. We went, oh, well, we were, I don't know what you were doing in the UK, but we were what they called social distancing, lining up in front of the grocery store. They would only let so many people in the grocery store at a time, and you were like a good 3 feet between people lining up all the way outside. So we started to think about, hey, if I'm more responsible for me and my health, some of that was obviously the government said you will do this, or our cities said you will do this. But it did make people stop to think about how they could then be in control of what was going on with their lives. And I think that was a really important point that you mentioned, Natalie, because I think the control has been taken away from us. And we let it, who wouldn't like to just get a pill and, be fixed? But it doesn't work that way. And you had a very good analogy of all of that circle of taking a pill and then a side effect, taking another pill for that side effect. And I think that's where a lot of our health issues are now stemming from, is the fact that we have relied on other people to tell us what we should be doing with our bodies, when we really know, because we're very smart and our bodies are very smart. So yes, absolutely. Think about all the other ways, and now the information is out there. 37, a little over 37 years ago. I can say that because my son's coming 37, so I know I was 5 months pregnant with him. My mom died at age 61, and it was due to complication of a medication that she had been on for over 20 years. And not once did her GP ever say, we might need to check your kidneys on a regular basis, because the side effect of this medication on a long period of time affects your kidneys. So she just got sick very quickly. All of a sudden, just was right before Christmas, and she was in the hospital and was supposed to come home. They discovered definitely that one of her kidneys wasn't functioning properly. She was going to have it removed in the new year, but she was going to come home for Christmas and didn't make it. So, I do tell that story because I have a podcast that I do Friday mornings. I do tell that story because, she didn't know any different. She was very, she knew what medication she was taking, but she wasn't aware of what the side effects and how they could be affecting her body and her organs. So I always like people to know that there is another way, and ask questions. And if something's doesn't feel right in your body physically or emotionally or mentally or spiritually, however, ask the question, be curious, find out why you're not feeling 100%, because you're the only person that's going to be able to change that.
And one of the things that we were talking about, I think a couple of weeks ago, we've published a episode about blood work, but it's also, you might have a symptom in one place. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it is. It's about digging deeper. And one of the things with doctors, first of all, GPs are so overworked that within 5 minutes, especially here in the UK, you give them 5-minute slots. Well, how much can you do in 5 minutes? And then you don't always see the same GP because of the way the NHS works. So there's no history. So it's very much focused on that specific spot. But then you've also get your brain surgeons, your heart surgeon. So each doctor is specialized. I mean, they're highly specialized in an area. and there's no necessarily any overlap. So you might come with one symptom that's in their area, but they don't understand or work with the rest of the body to see, hang on a minute, it's actually the stone in your foot that's causing the headache. And I know that it's probably not that, but it's, and this is something that when you start to take control, you start to really dig deeper. Do I have a headache because I'm banging my head against a wall? Or do I have a headache because I'm standing wrong, or because I don't know, my hips are not aligned, or I have something or other? And it really starts to dig deeper on what it is. And you also mentioned the spirituality or the mental, or sometimes it can be an emotion that's sitting there.
Most definitely.
Backache cannot necessarily be backache, but it's an emotion that's sitting in your back causing the backache. But how are you going to know that unless you start to really take control? Go to the people who can help you peel away, because we might understand our bodies or know our bodies, but we might not be able to know what to do or how to do it. So have the blood test, come to your website, look at the different modalities, speak to the different people to see, but you get more of a whole person, not just the physical, but the mental, the emotional, the spiritual. And that's what we are. The whole humanness of us being human.
I often say we're human beings, not human doings. So it's, we have a tendency to do, and then not stop and kind of look at what is going on and what's happening. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Natalie, about where that ache that you could have, or a pain that you might have somewhere, but that might not really be the reason. And just exploring that just a little bit with the body code work that I do, that's my modality. Dr. Bradley Nelson, who created the protocol, he's come up with a chart of 60 trapped emotions, balls of negative energy. And they do, in fact, some of these emotions can, in fact, compromise organs and glands in the body. So this one I was using this a lot on my social media during the pandemic, because lungs were being compromised with COVID. And so these were some of the emotions that people could have been having that would be compromising their lungs. So sadness, obviously, sorrow, which is more than just being sad. But if you're now no longer able to go and visit your elderly parents, for example, that I'm sure that people were really, really feeling that. Being confused, having grief, feeling defensive, like, oh my gosh, now the government is telling me I have to have this injection and I have to be masked up, and like that would put anybody on the defensive, right? And so some of these emotions are, particularly in this row 3, definitely affected the lung, and the other organ was the colon. So people really need to understand that, yes, these emotions that we have do affect our bodies. And further to that, this is my little piece that I have a podcast that I do on Wednesdays, and I talk about an emotion, and then I talk about, well, how would you know you have that emotion trapped in your subconscious? Well, our muscles are all connected to our organs. So your muscles in your body, so it could be a backache, it could be a shoulder ache, it could be a side ache, it could be a hip ache, and of course, different muscles are connected to different organs. So I just try to explain that in my little 3 minutes that I'm on my little podcast, saying, well, if you have that pain or discomfort, that could possibly mean that there's an imbalance with that particular organ, and this emotion is actually causing it. So very important for us to understand how we're all together, It's not just one little piece here and one there. And you're so right, Natalie, about our medical system. We have the similar medical system here in Canada, where you'll see a doctor about a specific thing, and they only have, as you say, 5 or 10 minutes to actually talk to you. And so, how can they really deep dive? Sometimes you can only ask 2 questions, and that's all. Well, what if you had 3 or 4 questions? And we're at a crisis right now in that we don't even have any doctors, or very few doctors. And I think that's also all over the world. We had a whole generation of doctors who retired, and now the new doctors coming in, it's just so expensive to be a doctor, with all the debt and everything they have to incur to become a doctor, and then the practice, setting up their practice. So it's a bit of a deterrent. And I'm saying this because I have a really dear friend whose daughter is a doctor. She's in her early 40s. And I was trying to get them, they love Vancouver Island where I live. And I'm like, well, come move here. And they were just saying, well, with the cost of living and resettling and setting up a practice and buying a home, the cost it's just prohibitive. So we need to really do something. I have to mention this just because I think it's brilliant. So one of our cities in Canada, it's called Winnipeg, in the province of Manitoba. And most people call it Winter Peg because it can get 40 and 50 below in the winter. So not everybody wants to go there, just saying. But the city of Winnipeg came up with a brilliant idea because they needed doctors. And it's a fairly large city. So what the city of Winnipeg did, not the provincial government, not the federal government, but the city government, they created a building, or there was a building, and they invited doctors to come. They paid, the doctors didn't have to pay rent for their offices. They didn't have to, all of the infrastructure, like the admin staff and everything, was all looked after. All they had to do was show up and do what they do best. They were even given housing. That's how much the city wanted them. And I just think that's a brilliant model. Like, well, why are we not doing that in all over the world to support doctors who we need, and help them get to where we need to go. So anyway, just had to share that piece of information.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing, because we do need to, I think, rethink our healthcare system globally. We need to look at if the way we train doctors, the way we set up practices, the way we fund and invest, and no matter where on the scale of kind of political systems we are, with how much of our taxes and how much of our support and how much insurance goes into the healthcare systems, the financial side is just one side. The other side is what you were talking about. It's kind of the amount of time and effort and connection doctors can really put into a patient. And as you were talking, I was really reminded of, for me, one of the strongest memories and kind of connections to the importance of looking at holistically and connecting from a book from Gabor Mate, who really brought such a strong point for me early on in his book, when he talked about it back in the day. Maybe the doctors didn't have all those fancy tools and all the science behind, all the deep understanding of all the mechanics and all the neuroimaging and all the cool stuff. But they were family doctors. They knew the family, they were family friends, and what they had, and we go back to my early point of belief, they had the power to make you believe that they can heal you and that you can heal yourself. Their tools, their modalities, they didn't have much back then, about the time that Gabor Mate is talking about. They didn't have much in terms of actual science, but they could still heal. And there, even back in the day, are incredible stories of people and being healed just simply because they believed, and they were made to believe by their doctor.
And also they knew that their general practitioner cared about them. They were family doctors, as you mentioned, probably community doctors, so part of the community. And we've learned that since the pandemic, that we really have to have people around and surrounding us who care for us, because that is all part of our emotional and mental health. So yeah, I agree with you, Lincoln. Most definitely, people did have that support system, which we don't have anymore. And so our medical model throughout the whole world is broken. And so we need to look at what the medical model is that we need now for 2024 and going forward. And I, obviously the three of us all believe in holistic medicine, and that is the route to go, and that's for people to make that available. And I'm not sure if it was, I think Natalie, you mentioned that not all of our holistic health is covered. So our healthcare system needs to be adjusted so that we have compensation for people. One of my advisory board members has a company he and his wife formed, and they're actually helping corporations and businesses create what they call a wellness plan. So it's just like the sickness plan, where the employee puts in X number of dollars and the company matches it. So do the same thing for wellness, because we do have some things that are covered now, like chiropractor and massage and even acupuncture, but the work I do is not covered. So it's looking at the proactive approach, not just the reactive approach. And I think that's the new paradigm shift that we have to be shifting towards, is looking at being proactively well. I think we've been in a reactive illness society way too long. I call it. Now we need to be in a proactive wellness society. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you're bringing a kind of another memory, another thought that really cemented kind of my health journey and my understanding. Was a book from Dr. Peter Attia talking about Outlive, kind of the art and science of longevity and health span. He was also talking, like lots of his book, it's all about prevention. It's all about, he goes pretty extreme in how he wants people to really be looking at themselves and positioning themselves. But he really has this vision of us, again, being so healthy and capable in our last decade, no matter the number of the decade. It's the last decade that we ever get to live, but still in that time, be fully independent and be fully capable of doing things. But he really goes to explain how seriously we need to take potentially prevention on so many different levels, and how many illnesses we can prevent. That for me was how many of the illnesses that we now see this red flag of, like, we have pandemic of this and we have epidemic of this, and be it heart disease, be it cancer, be it Alzheimer's, be it this, be it, like, he outlined so beautifully that so much of it lies in prevention. But unfortunately, the prevention often needs to start in my age, in your 30s and 40s. Because when we start looking at prevention, when the numbers start showing up on the tables that the medical professionals right now have, it's usually too late. Once you start showing that we need to start taking some measures, that's usually a bit too late already for this. So that was an interesting also learning for me, to really look at how important prevention how meaningful prevention, or change of lifestyle, call it whatever you want, but again, how much power we have if we choose to take it.
Absolutely. And, there's new science out every day correlating our digestive system to our brain. And if you really think about, like, if your digestive system is healthy, your brain is healthy. So why all of a sudden, I've been asking this question, do we have this tsunami, for want of a better word, of Alzheimer's and dementia? It's because of all of the years that we've been eating junk. raised on processed foods. There's 2 or 3 generations of us that have been raised on processed foods. And that is now, I believe, is the correlation. Understanding how important the heart is as a brain. There's now the Heart Math Institute in California is doing studies on how that our heart is really the brain that's going on. It's telling this brain, it's not the other way around. So knowing we have really good heart health is important. Knowing that we have good digestion health is really important, to understand how as we age, we won't get sick, or we won't have all of those ailments that we kind of we sort of lump together with getting older. Oh yeah, now I'm going to have arthritis, or this itis, or that itis, or this pain or that pain. We really need to understand that it is our bodies, and we know them best. As I mentioned before, we know our bodies the best. So find out what that is going to work best for you, because I don't know about you ladies, but I don't want to be achy and painy. I want to live my best life as long as I possibly can.
One of the things that sort of came to mind when you were talking about, the gut heart and the gut brain and the heart brain, and this is something that Greg Braden talks about, is that the brain in the third brain in the heart, and it's also, a lot of it is mental. It's also the mental attitude, and being, creating more positivity in your life, and being more, I guess, more receptive or open to new ideas or to different ways. And like you said, it's eating healthily, it's putting the right foods in your body, it's about having the right mindset as well. So it's not just, okay, we're eating lovely biodynamic food, we taking our herbal supplements, but yet our minds are, being negative and just woe is me and everything else. It's combining all of them together that can help. And I think our minds are so powerful, is that we can create such a negative environment around us, and we can eat the best food but still be ill, still be run down, because we are allowing these negative thoughts to take over. And I think sometimes is when we are in the process of changing or wanting to create something, we forget the power of the mind. And I've noticed that myself, when I go into my woe is me and I feel sorry for myself, I mean, I can really go down, and it's like, oh yeah, that's it, life's over, why do I bother? And you just become run down, you become negative, you have no energy. I can't be bothered to eat good food. That's when I'll just take out or processed food, and you can just get into that cycle, and it's almost becomes a physical kick up the butt to say, hang on a minute, let's shift this, let's eat something healthy. And it's like, oh, but I can't be bothered, I've got to cook it from scratch. But it's like, no, just get on with it, just do it. And then it's about, okay, why am I going down this mental spirals wherever I'm going? How can I shift it? What can I do to shift it? And I've had years of learning about how the brain works, how, the power of resilience and confidence. And I really consciously make sure what I'm listening to, what I'm reading, and even then I have times when I'm like, oh my God, that's it, I'm done, processed foods, I feel sorry for myself. But it does take that effort and that time. And I think one of the things that's so important is, yes, let's look after our bodies, but let's look after the mind as well. Not the brain, but the mind, the thoughts. What are we putting into our heads? What are we watching? What are we listening to? Is it inspiring us, motivating us, helping us to want to eat the good food, to really look after ourselves, to go to yoga, to go for those walks, to go out in nature? or is it making us feel all doom and gloom and that's it, the world's coming to an end, which then comes to that resilience, that resilience that we really need to be building, which is helps our hearts, helps our bodies, but also it can help us not to feel so lonely or isolated, because being negative, I don't know about you ladies, but I don't like being around people who are just negative all the time. And you want to be around people who are inspiring. So it's finding the right people so that you have those connections, that you have that resilience built in, which then helps you to eat the better food, to really start to go to places like your website, to find people who can help and support and just help us to have better lives so that we can live older. So I know there's no real question in there, but I just wanted to bring in the power of thought, or the power of that little voice in our heads that's just going off on whatever tangent it's going off on.
Oh, I love the way you talked about that, because there's a gentleman he's out of Florida. His name's Mike Dooley, and he has the Notes from the Universe. So you can actually go to his website and get a note from the universe every day that is very uplifting. But he talks about a couple of things. Is we have thoughts, so let's make them good ones. So we all have thoughts, so let's just, let's cultivate those good ones. He also talks about the cursed hows. When you get into something and you really want something really badly and you think, well, I should do this and I should do this and I should do this. He's like, you just have to allow it to happen. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. It's not your job. It's the universe's job or God's job, however you look at that. But I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Natalie, about our mindset, because that is so true. And we need to give ourselves tools. And I think that's what you were mentioning. Give ourselves tools like yoga or walk in nature. Turn off the TV. I haven't watched mainline news probably for 25 years. I don't read a mainstream newspaper, because the negative news sells. And I don't want that part of what I call my energetic bubble. My husband says you're really unrealistic, and I'm like, I'm totally fine with that, because this is my bubble and I want to be positive in my bubble. And so we need to give ourselves tools so that we in fact can have that resilience, or when we do find ourselves, because we're human, so it's going to happen, we're going down that kind of negative rabbit hole. We've got the tools to then bring us back up out of it and be resilient, so that our minds are refreshed and our thoughts are being more positive and less negative around what's going on in the world, because we could be following that little negative rabbit constantly all the time, because there's always something in the world or in our lives or in our countries that we would prefer not to have. But it's, that is the way of the world at the moment, and we're a little bit stirred up, I think.
I would, and I'm sure, Lenka, we could talk to you for hours and really go down the whole rabbit holes and all sorts. But I really appreciate that you shared some time with us and shared your knowledge and experiences and thoughts on what you were doing. But one thing that we do like is if you could share a last, either a top 3 tips or a gold nugget, or is there something that you really want to talk about that we've not asked the question, we've not asked you? Now's the time just to share with us a little bit more about, as I said, either a top tip or something that's really on your mind that you feel now's the space, now's the time.
All right, well, thank you. Well, I did mention this a little bit about being curious. And I think curiosity is, I think, one of our tools that we need to have in our toolbox. And so it can help us in so many different ways. It can help us certainly when we're just wondering about what's going on with our lives or ourselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. But when we come up against another thought or a way someone is looking at something that doesn't fit right for us. Why is that? Why is that happening? We've been taught over the years to run away from fear, but fear really comes up for us for a reason. So I encourage people to always look at that fear. What does that mean? Why am all of a sudden I'm like in a panic situation about whatever that might be? And I like to use the acronym false evidence appearing real. So really, it's not, it's fear that for whatever reason doesn't have any substance behind it, but it's still an emotion, and it's still part of our autonomic nervous system, our fight, flight, freeze nervous system, that we have as humans. But let's examine it and examine your life, examine what's happening in your life. I would say that would be my main tip. Certainly curiosity, I say what you may have gotten into trouble for as a child is probably your gift. So I was always in trouble for being too sensitive, and I was always in trouble for asking too many questions. So it's like, now it is a great support for me, because I need the sensitivity for the work that I do with my clients. And my curiosity has just led me to so many amazing places, one of which is meeting you two ladies. So I'm so delighted that we were able to do this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, and such great advice. I mean, curiosity is such a great tool to almost go back to that childlike curiosity and just look at things with new eyes and new ways, and just see what can we learn, because we have the capacity to learn and find out so much, and it starts with curiosity. So thank you for that. And I also love, what did you get in trouble with as a kid, and use that as a strength. I love that. So if our audience is thinking, you know what, I need to get hold of this lady, I need to talk to her, where can they reach you? How can people connect with you and find out more on what you're doing, or even to reach out to you?
Oh, well, thank you. So the website is www.healing-institute.com. On our website, we have an opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. So you can certainly keep in touch with us. A weekly newsletter goes out with all different kinds of information, including descriptions of what our practitioners do. My email is info@thehealinginstitute.com. And so I always answer those emails if you want to know more about me. So I think I also put in my calendar link. I think I sent you that as well. So if you want to hop on my electric calendar and book some time, I would love to have a Zoom chat with you. So this topic, of course, is what I love to talk about always. So I'm so grateful that I was able to be introduced to you ladies and to come on your podcast. So if anybody's looking for more information, certainly wondering about the practitioners that are on the website, please reach out to us and come to the website and check us out.
And all the links will be in the comment section below, so people can reach out. And again, thank you so much for sharing your energy with us, sharing your time with us, and your knowledge, and all those little gold nuggets that you have shared with us. And for our listeners, what have you got from today's topic? Is this something that you're thinking, yes, I need to dig more into it, or I need to start finding out a little bit more about my way my mind is thinking, or my body's feeling, or the food that I'm eating, whatever? We'd love to know what your thoughts are on our topic today. And is there a topic that you would like us to start digging into more? Is there somebody who you think will be a great guest with some new knowledge? Because as Permelia said, curiosity is good. So is there somebody that we can bring it on as a guest? What would you like us to be really digging more into, or are you just happy with what we have found so far and looking forward to what we've got coming up in the future. But again, Permelia, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you so much for just sharing everything, and just keep doing what you're doing, keep sharing and getting to those. I think your aim was 12 countries and more practitioners. It's a great goal, it's a great aim, and please just keep doing what you're doing, keep growing, keep developing, and we would love to just share more information as you get it with our listeners. But until next time, have a lovely rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye!
If you enjoyed listening to our conversation, please share it with your friends and colleagues, and don't forget to subscribe. We would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and write a short review.